Greetings fellow humans and welcome to the Renaissance Yorkshireman podcast. Today I'd like to talk about what I think it means to be a post-capitalist. I consider myself politically and economically to be a post-capitalist. What on earth does that mean, you may well ask? Well, in the first instance, it means that I draw my influence from quite a number of sources. I'm a cherry picker, not an ideologue. So some of my ideas I get from capitalism, from socialism, from anarchism, from libertarianism, from liberalism, other isms. I also draw a lot of my influence from Jungian psychology because I think that if you can't change the way that people think, you're not going to change the way that people behave. So in the first instance then, I draw my influence from a number of sources. Point 2. Post-capitalists reject debt-based currencies. What is a debt-based currency, you may well ask? Well, if you've used the dollar, the pound or the euro or just about any other currency in circulation, you have used a debt-based currency. So what happens is this. The bank invents money and then they charge interest on it. So they can just make up, let's say, £1 million, charge 5% interest. So that £1 million is out there circulating in the economy, but £1.05 million is actually owed in debt because the interest is owed as well as the principal. So £1,050,000 is owed, but only 1 million exists. So the debt can never be repaid. This is a toxic system in all sorts of ways, which I'll go into in greater detail in future videos. But for now, let's just say there are alternatives. Systems such as copiosis, for example, is a system which creates money with no debt. So, point 2, we reject debt-based currencies. According to the Stockholm Peace Research Institute, the planet spends $1,000 billion a year on the arms trade. Well, let's face it, there's a lot of other things that money could be doing, such as, I don't know, solving environmental problems, having a functional education system with less than 15 students in a class so that they actually learn something in a environment where there is a extremely broad curriculum which is optional instead of being forced to study things that they think are really boring and just cause trouble in the classroom. You know, that money could be spent on all sorts of different things. We reject the arms trade because it's a net loss for the human race overall. We recognise the right of peaceable humans to live in non-state forms. What is a non-state form? Well, in my analysis, it's a community of 5,000 people, around 5,000 people or less, living together with some kind of common purpose or common belief. But they don't have a formalised government and or they don't have a police force with a legal monopoly on violence. Now, as things stand on planet Earth at the moment, unless you're a Kalahari bushman, you are living under the control of the state and you have absolutely no choice in the matter. So this is a point where I'm with the anarchists and the libertarians. If you want to live outside of the control of the state, you should be allowed to do so. And let's face it, we don't need to look very hard to find examples of where the state has been really quite unpleasant and dysfunctional. Stalin's Russia, Boris Johnson's UK, you know, we could go back in history or we could look at places today. There's all sorts of examples. And if you want to live under the control of the state, fair enough, please yourself. Obviously, it does give you more opportunities, leisure opportunities and work opportunities living in a state rather than a group of 5,000 people. But obviously, you have to sacrifice certain freedoms to do that. And point number 6. You need to change yourself. We all have our ding-dongs going on in our heads, our negative tape loops telling us things that we got programmed into us when we were children, either by our parents or by schools. And a lot of people never take the time to have a look at them. Well, if you don't, you're gonna have problems for most of your life, I would suggest. So As well as wanting to change the system, you have to take a good hard look at yourself and start changing yourself. Thank you for giving me your time today. Time is a precious commodity and I very much appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you again in the near future.